All right, so we've got a stack of articles here about DStv and some interesting changes they're making.
Yeah, it looks like they're shaking things up.
Yeah, with channel lineups and pricing, and specifically, it looks like DStv Compact subscribers are getting 5 new channels
Wow, okay.
and an extra stream allowance,
Interesting.
but there's a price hike across the board. So,
Okay.
is
So,
this a good deal?
yeah, is this a good deal or not?
What's the strategy behind all of this?
Yeah, what's the strategy here?
And what does it mean for you as a DStv subscriber? Let's break it all down.
So what I find fascinating is that multi-choice seems to be targeting very specific viewer segments
Uh-huh.
with these new channel additions.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, like for DStv Compact, we've got Super Sport Action,
Right.
Africa Magic Showcase,
Oh, okay.
CBS Justice,
Mm,
Curiosity Channel,
yeah.
and the History Channel.
It's not just a random assortment of channels.
Right.
They seem to have carefully selected channels that cater to particular interests,
Ex-
like true crime and documentary lovers.
Right, like take CBS Justice, for example.
Okay.
They're adding shows like Snapped, Killer Couples,
Okay.
Cold Blood,
Mm-hmm.
and Black Widow Murders. It seems like they're tapping into the huge popularity of true crime content,
Yeah, that's a good point.
which is a smart move.
It's almost like they're trying to compete with streaming services on their own turf by offering similar types of content.
Precisely. And then you have the Curiosity Channel
Okay.
with shows like Planet Insects, Cities of Tomorrow, and Ancient Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
They're clearly going after viewers who are interested in science history and those thought-provoking documentaries that you might find on platforms like Netflix or Curiosity Stream.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they're trying to lure back some of those viewers who might have ditched DStv for those streaming platforms.
Yeah, could be.
But let's not forget about that extra stream for DStv Compact subscribers.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
That's a pretty significant addition.
It is, and it could be a key factor in how subscribers perceive the value of this package, being able to watch on 2 devices simultaneously.
Right.
Adds a lot of flexibility, especially for families or households with multiple viewers.
Yeah, I can see that being a big selling point, especially since those streaming services often limit the number of simultaneous streams you can have.
Exactly.
I wonder if this is a direct response to that limitation.
It's possible they might be trying to highlight a key advantage that DStv still has over those streaming platforms. But of course, all of this comes at a cost.
Right.
We can't ignore the price increases.
Yeah, let's talk about those. The articles lay it all out. DStv Premium is going up to R$979,
Okay.
Compact Plus to R$659,
Mm.
and even with all the new additions, DStv Compact is still jumping to R$479.
Wow.
Those are some pretty hefty increases, and I'm curious to see how subscribers will react.
Especially in the context of this competitive streaming landscape,
Right.
it's a bold move for DStv to raise prices while also facing pressure from those more affordable streaming alternatives.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if they're overestimating the value of those new channels and features. Are they enough to justify such a significant price hike?
Yeah. It's a gamble for sure.
They're definitely taking a calculated risk,
Hmm.
and it'll be interesting to see if that risk pays off. One thing they are doing to sweeten the deal
Okay.
is offering those discounted rates for 24-month contracts.
Oh, right.
But that lock-in aspect
Right.
is a double-edged sword.
Yeah, that's a good point. You get potential savings up front, but you're also committing to a 2-year contract.
Exactly.
And in that time frame, a lot can change in the world of entertainment.
So much.
New streaming services might emerge, or your viewing habits might shift.
For sure.
So before jumping on that 24-month contract,
Right.
it's worth considering your long-term needs.
Yeah, think that.
And how you see your entertainment consumption evolving over the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
It's a tough decision, but let's not forget about the bundled offerings they're pushing.
Yeah.
They're really emphasizing those Showmax bundles.
And there are even options to bundle with home internet.
Here's where the strategy gets really interesting. It seems like they're trying to position themselves as more than just a traditional TV provider.
Okay.
They're trying to create a comprehensive entertainment ecosystem.
Right, like a one-stop shop for all your entertainment and connectivity needs. But do you think those bundles are compelling enough to sway people?
Well, it depends on the specific bundles and how they're priced. For example, they're now including Showmax Entertainment with DStv Premium
Uh-huh.
and offering discounts for other packages.
So they're essentially trying to entice people to stay within the DStv ecosystem
Right.
by offering a wider range of content, including on-demand movies and series through Showmax.
Exactly. And they're also pushing that discounted Showmax Pro add-on for sports fans who want access to live sports streaming.
Right.
Plus, they're making it really easy to bundle with home internet. even mentioning a specific number to text for more information.
It sounds like they're pulling out all the stops to make DStv seem like a comprehensive and convenient option.
They're certainly trying to highlight those aspects, but ultimately it comes down to value for money. Do these bundled offerings sweeten the deal enough to justify the price hike?
Yeah.
It's a question each listener needs to answer based on their own DStv usage, their budget, and their entertainment preferences.
Absolutely. It's a personalized assessment, and that's a good segue into a question I've been pondering.
Okay.
With streaming services gaining popularity and offering so much flexibility, are traditional TV packages like DStv still relevant, or are they slowly becoming a thing of the past?
That's the million-rand question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's one we'll continue to explore as we dive deeper into the implications of these DStv changes. But for now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
Do those bundled offerings appeal to you? Do you see yourself sticking with DStv, or are you tempted by those streaming alternatives?
That's a great question, and one that I'm still grappling with myself. I think there are pros and cons to both options. We'll have to weigh those carefully as we continue our deep dive. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the potential impact of these DStv changes and explore those wider trends shaping the future of television.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the DStv changes and picking up on that question from part 1. The future of traditional TV is a fascinating topic. And while none of us have a crystal ball,
Right.
we can certainly analyze some trends to see where things might be headed.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What trends are you seeing that might give us some clues about where the TV industry is going?
Well, one thing that's hard to ignore is the continued rise of cord cutting.
Yeah.
More and more people are ditching their cable or satellite subscriptions and opting for streaming services instead.
That's definitely a trend. I've noticed, too, people seem to love the flexibility and on-demand aspect of streaming, no more scheduling your life around TV programming.
Zigzag. It's all about having control over what you watch and when you watch it. And often, streaming services are seen as more affordable, especially if you're strategic about which ones you subscribe to.
True, but those streaming subscriptions can add up quickly, especially if you want access to a wide variety of content.
Right.
You could end up paying just as much as a traditional TV package,
Yeah.
maybe even more.
That's a valid point. It'll be interesting to see how the pricing of streaming services evolves over time.
Yeah.
We might even see a shift towards bundling
Okay.
in the streaming world where you get multiple services packaged together for a single monthly fee.
Yeah.
Imagine a bundle that includes Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus, all for one price.
Now, that would be a game changer.
Right.
It would certainly simplify things for consumers and potentially offer some cost savings. Do you think we're likely to see that kind of bundling in the near future?
It's hard to say for certain, but it wouldn't surprise me. We're already seeing some collaboration between traditional TV providers and streaming services. DStv offering those discounted Showmax bundles is a prime example.
Right. Seems like the lines are blurring between traditional TV and streaming. It's less
Yeah.
about choosing one over the other and more about finding the right mix of content and delivery that works for you.
Exactly. The future of television isn't about one format completely replacing another. It's about convergence. It's about creating a seamless and personalized viewing experience that blends the best aspects of traditional TV and streaming.
So where does that leave DStv in all of this? They're making moves to adapt, adding new channels, enhancing their streaming platform, and bundling with Showmax, but are these moves enough to secure their future in this rapidly changing landscape?
It's hard to say for sure. It's a step in the right direction, for sure. By embracing streaming and diversifying their content, they're acknowledging that viewers' needs and habits are evolving.
But they're still walking that tightrope between offering enough value to justify their prices while facing stiff competition from those more affordable streaming services. Do you think they're striking the right balance?
That's the big question, isn't it? Only time will tell how these changes will impact their bottom line and their long-term viability. One thing's for certain, though, the traditional media industry is being disrupted by cord cutting, and it's forcing companies like MultiChoice to rethink their strategies.
Let's talk more about cord cutting and its impact on the wider media landscape. We touched on it briefly in the previous part, but it's such a multifaceted phenomenon with implications beyond just individual viewing habits. It's affecting business models, content creation, and even the way we consume news.
You're absolutely right. It's a ripple effect that's changing the entertainment industry as we know it if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture. It's fascinating to see how these shifts are playing out.
So let's dive into some of those wider implications. First up, how is cord cutting impacting the traditional media industry as a whole?
Well, it's been a major shakeup, to say the least. Traditional TV networks and cable companies are seeing their viewership and revenue decline
Yeah, makes sense.
as more and more people cut the cord and opt for streaming.
It makes sense from a business perspective. Fewer subscribers mean less money coming in. How are they responding to this challenge?
They're scrambling to adapt. We're seeing traditional networks launch their own streaming services in an attempt to recapture some of that lost audience and revenue. Think HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and so on.
It seems like everyone's jumping on the streaming bandwagon these days, but is it enough to compete with the likes of Netflix and Amazon who have already established themselves as the streaming giants?
That's the billion-dollar question. It's a fierce battle for eyeballs and subscriptions, and it's still too early to say who will emerge as the ultimate winners.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the impact on content creation. How is cord cutting changing the types of shows and movies being made?
One of the most notable impacts is the rise of niche programming streaming services, with their data-driven insights, are able to cater to very specific interests and demographics. They're willing to take risks on shows that might not have found a home on traditional TV because they appeal to a smaller but dedicated audience.
So we're seeing more content that caters to those passionate fan bases, the ones who are really enthusiastic about specific genres, topics, or even subcultures. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Streaming platforms are giving a voice to those niche interests, and it's resulting in a wider variety of content being produced. And that's a good thing for viewers. It means more choices, more diversity, and more representation of different perspectives.
It's like the democratization of content creation in a way, but we can't ignore the economic side of things.
Yeah.
How is cord cutting impacting the livelihoods of people who work in the traditional entertainment industry?
It's a complex issue with both positive and negative aspects. On the one hand, the rise of streaming services is creating new job opportunities. We're seeing a growing demand for professionals in areas like content development, production, and technology.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There are new avenues opening up for people with those skills.
Right, but on the other hand, there are concerns about job displacement. Traditional networks and cable companies are facing financial pressures, and this can lead to layoffs or cutbacks in production.
It's a double-edged sword. As with many technological disruptions, there are winners and losers in this evolving landscape.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that even as consumers benefit from these changes, there are also challenges and uncertainties for those working in the traditional media industry.
It's important to keep that in mind as we navigate this new world of entertainment. But speaking of navigating, let's bring our focus back to DStv and those specific changes they're implementing. We've talked about the wider trends now. Let's analyze how those trends are influencing their strategy.
Let's do it. We've laid the groundwork. Now it's time to dissect.
All right, let's revisit those new channels being added to DStv Compact, Supersport Action Africa, Magic Showcase, CBS Justice Curiosity Channel, and the History Channel. What's the strategic thinking behind these specific choices? Are they just random additions, or is there a method to the madness?
I don't think these choices are random at all. If we look closely at the content of these channels, some clear patterns emerge first. There's a strong emphasis on sports with the addition of Supersport Action.
That makes sense. Live sports are still a major draw for viewers, and they often drive those must-watch live moments that streaming services sometimes struggle to replicate.
Absolutely. Live sports are a key differentiator for DStv, and they're clearly leveraging that to attract and retain subscribers who are passionate about sports, especially in a world where people can choose to stream almost anything else on demand.
It's like they're saying, hey, if you want to watch the big game live, you need DStv. But it's not all about sports. They're also adding channels like CBS Justice and Curiosity Channel, which appeal to those niche interests we were talking about earlier.
Right, and this aligns with the broader trend we're seeing in the industry, the move towards more specialized content. They're recognizing that viewers are becoming more discerning and want programming that caters to their specific tastes.
So by diversifying their channel lineup and including options like true crime and documentaries, they're trying to compete with those streaming services that have built their success on catering to those niche audiences. It's like they're trying to cover all their bases.
Exactly. They're trying to offer something for everyone, from the sports fanatic to the documentary buff to the true crime enthusiast. It's all about appealing to a broader spectrum of viewers and capturing those who might be tempted by the specialized offerings of streaming platforms.
But let's talk about those price increases. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. Those increases are significant, and I'm wondering if they might backfire, especially in a world where consumers are becoming increasingly price sensitive.
It's a gamble, for sure. They're betting that the added value of the new channels and features, including that extra streaming stream for DStv Compact, will be enough to offset the price hike and keep subscribers satisfied. but it's a risky move in a market where affordable streaming alternatives are readily available.
I agree. It's a delicate balancing act, and it makes you wonder if they're overestimating the value proposition they're offering. Are those new channels and features really worth the extra cost in the eyes of the average consumer?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's a question that each subscriber will have to answer for themselves based on their own individual needs, preferences, and budget.
And speaking of budget, let's not forget about those bundled offerings. They're pushing those Showmax bundles hard, and they're even offering options to bundle with home internet. What's your take on their bundling strategy? Is it a smart move or a desperate attempt to hold on to subscribers?
I think there's a strategic element to it for sure. It's about creating a stickier ecosystem. If you're bundled into their services for both TV and internet, you're less likely to switch to a competitor. It's about creating a one-stop shop for your entertainment and connectivity needs, hoping to lock in those subscribers for the long haul.
It makes you wonder, though, if they're trying to compensate for a potential decline in their traditional TV subscriber base by pushing these bundles as a way to diversify their revenue streams. It's like they're hedging their bets, recognizing that the future might be more about bundled services than standalone TV packages.
That's a very insightful observation.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they're preparing for a future where their core TV offering might not be enough to sustain their business.
That's a fascinating thought, and one that we should keep in mind as we continue to analyze their strategy. But for now, let's wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from cord cutting and its impact on the industry to DSTV's specific moves to adapt to this changing landscape.
And in part 3, we'll synthesize all of our findings and explore some potential future scenarios for DSTV and the TV industry as a whole. It's going to be a thought-provoking conclusion to this deep dive.
We'll be back soon for the final part of our DSTV analysis. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the DSTV changes. We've explored the specifics of their new offerings, analyzed the strategy behind those moves, and delved into the wider trends shaping the future of television.
It's been quite a journey unpacking all of this and connecting those broader trends to DSTV's specific choices. But now it's time to synthesize everything we've discussed and look ahead to what the future might hold.
Right, we've laid all the groundwork, examined the evidence, and now it's time to draw some conclusions. And the big question that's been looming over this entire discussion is DSTV still relevant in a world that's rapidly embracing streaming?
That's the question we all want an answer to. But like many things in life, the answer isn't a simple yes or no.
Yep.
It depends on a variety of factors,
right,
including individual needs, preferences, and viewing habits.
I agree. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation for some people. DSTV might still be the best option. They might value the convenience of a bundled package that includes both TV and internet, the reliability of a traditional service, or the specific channels that DSTV offers, especially those that cater to niche interests.
You make a good point about those niche channels. If you're a die-hard sports fan or you love those specific documentary or true crime channels that DSTV has curated, then their offerings might outweigh the convenience and flexibility of streaming for you.
Right, and let's not forget that live sports are still a major draw for DSTV. If you're someone who needs to watch the big game as it happens, then DSTV might still be the go-to option, at least for now.
But for others, streaming might be the more appealing choice. The flexibility of on-demand content, the ability to personalize your viewing experience, and the often lower cost of streaming services are all factors that are tempting people to cut the cord.
Yeah, it's all about weighing the pros and cons, right? Assessing your own needs, your budget, and how you prioritize things like convenience, flexibility, and content variety.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding the best fit for your individual circumstances.
So it seems like DSTV is in a tricky position. They're facing increased competition from streaming. They're seeing traditional viewing habits change, and they're trying to adapt to a media landscape that's in constant flux.
They're walking a tightrope, trying to balance the needs of their existing subscriber base with the need to attract new subscribers who might be tempted by those streaming alternatives. And the recent changes with the new channels, the price increases and the bundled offerings are all part of their strategy to navigate this complex situation.
It's like they're trying to hedge their bets, offering a little bit of everything to appeal to as many people as possible. But do you think it's a sustainable strategy in the long run?
It's hard to say for certain. The success of their approach will depend on several factors, including how well they execute their strategy, how consumers respond to those price increases, and how the competitive landscape evolves in the coming years.
Right. It's all about adapting to change, being agile, and staying ahead of the curve. And that's true not just for DSTV, but for the entire television industry.
Absolutely. The way we consume content is changing, and the companies that can anticipate and adapt to those changes are the ones that will thrive in this new environment.
So let's do a little thought experiment. Let's envision some potential future scenarios for DSTV based on how these different forces might play out.
I like that idea. Let's explore some possibilities and see where our imaginations take us.
All right, scenario one. DSTV successfully navigates the transition to a more streaming-centric world. They continue to invest in their own streaming platform, DSTV. Now they offer compelling bundled packages that combine TV, internet, and streaming services, and they find ways to differentiate themselves from the competition.
In this scenario, they become a hybrid entertainment provider, offering a seamless blend of traditional TV channels and a robust streaming service all under one roof. They might even partner with other streaming services to create even more comprehensive bundles that cater to a wider range of tastes and preferences.
It's like becoming the Amazon of entertainment, offering everything you could possibly want in one convenient place.
Exactly. And they could leverage their existing relationships with content providers, their infrastructure, and their brand recognition to create a truly compelling value proposition that rivals the streaming giants.
That's a pretty optimistic scenario, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility if they play their cards right. But let's consider a different scenario. Scenario 2, DSTV struggles to keep up with the pace of change. They fail to attract new subscribers. Their existing subscriber base continues to erode, and they lose ground to those more agile and innovative streaming competitors.
In this scenario, they might be forced to downsize, cut costs, and focus on a smaller, more niche audience. Perhaps they become a more specialized service, catering to specific interests like sports or premium movie channels, or they double down on those bundled offerings as a way to generate revenue from existing subscribers.
They might even end up being acquired by a larger media company or a streaming giant looking to expand their reach into new markets. It happens all the time in the business world.
It's a classic tale of disruption, copy. Companies that fail to adapt to changing circumstances can quickly find themselves falling behind.
It's a reminder that innovation is key to survival in any industry, but especially in the fast-paced world of entertainment.
But even if DSTV were to face challenges, it doesn't necessarily mean the end of traditional TV. There will likely always be a segment of the population that prefers the familiarity and reliability of traditional TV, even in a world dominated by streaming.
That's a good point. It's not about one format completely replacing another. It's about finding the right balance, the right mix of options to cater to the diverse needs and preferences of viewers.
And it's about recognizing that the future of television is fluid, dynamic, and constantly evolving.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by the fact that there's no easy answer to the question of whether DSTV is still relevant. It's a complex issue with multiple layers and no clear-cut solution.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to analyze. It's a real-world case study of how businesses are adapting to disruption, how consumer behavior is changing, and how the entertainment industry is being reshaped by technological advancements.
It's a reminder that we're living in a time of unprecedented change, and the way we consume content is just one example of how those changes are playing out.
And it highlights the importance of being informed, adaptable, and open to new possibilities.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to stay engaged, to keep exploring your options, and to make choices that align with your own individual needs and preferences. The future of television is in your hands.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of DSTV and the evolving landscape of entertainment.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic that's shaping our world. Until then, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those conversations going.